So what you're saying to him essentially is just to summarise, is that I don't know, but you can't know either.
Exactly. Yes.
Which is I think that's unreasonable.
So what else you got to support what you're thinking? You haven't got a position, have you? Okay, so it depends on what question you're asking. Beginning of whether the universe had a beginning or not. Okay, I don't have a position. You don't have a position? Right, correct. Does it matter? If it had a beginning, what I'm saying is, then you cannot demand that it must have had a cause. Why not? Because everything we know about causes is... How did it begin without a cause? Well, okay, I don't know. I'm not claiming to know.
I think that this takes us to the crux of the beginning, the title that we had.
Yeah.
Because really what you're saying to me, and you're saying it again, is that you don't know.
But then it's an unreasonable belief. If you believe it on no evidence, then by definition it's an unreasonable belief. But you can have reason. If you have reason, fine. Then you have to give me the reason. All right. And the Quran says the universe had a beginning. Sorry.
That's right. No worries. Assalamu alaikum. How are you? Okay. Yeah. So if you get rid of mass, then you can essentially or reduce mass to such a level that time itself doesn't really come into the equation. And I think that's just a cop-out. That's what I think. No offence, because you're just finding another theory that could somehow maybe take away this notion that we have to deal with an infinite series of past events. So for me, I think that's still as a logical to looking at the universe in a logical way, and causality as we conventionally understand it. I think that's the Kalam cosmological argument is a reasonable argument, and I haven't really seen any defeaters personally to that argument. So I think when these arguments are made, depending on exactly how they're made, I think they're still effective, because the reality is that we do perceive time, and we do see causality, and we haven't really seen a demonstration of a scenario in which causality does not exist yet. And I think if we got to that stage, maybe we could say that there's no time, there's no causality. What are you going to say about this scenario? But actually, I don't have a reason to accept that now. And contradictory theories are not a good reason, I don't think.
Okay, so let me respond to that.
Sure.
So first off, the relativity of simultaneity is not observer dependent. This is a fundamental feature, as we understand it, of the universe. It is not, of course we describe it in these cases of the guy on the train, and we have observers, okay? But it isn't something that depends on conscious observers, okay? So I think that's an invalid point, okay? Of course, we don't perceive the relativity of simultaneity, and there's a very simple reason for that, very simple explanation for that. We don't move at speeds anywhere near the speed of light. So of course we don't. That's no surprise. However, we have to put relativity into our GPS satellites. These principles are in those satellites. If you didn't put them in, you would not get accurate GPS signals, right? So this is not something hypothetical. This is not something that's dependent on a conscious observer. Now, to say the Kalam cosmological argument is a valid argument, it has to have evidence to support it. It's got these premises, right? The universe had a beginning. Everything that begins to exist has a beginning, okay? You've got to establish that those premises are true if you're going to have a deductive argument. You can't just throw them on the table, right, and say prove they're not true, which I think has been Darren's approach, okay? You've got to, if you're making this argument, the Kalam argument, the onus is on you to establish that they are true.
Sure.
And if I can put sufficient doubt on whether they're true, then you cannot confidently conclude the argument. Now, it doesn't mean, I'm not claiming I've disproven the assumptions. I'm not saying the assumptions are known to be false, but we don't know them to be true.
Just attack me. Sorry, which part of my belief in that the cause of the universe requires to be uncaused have you attacked or disproved?
Okay, no. I think you're misunderstanding the point I was making. You were saying that you were entitled to that belief because I couldn't disprove that there wasn't a beginning. Right, and I'm saying it doesn't depend on that. If you're going to advance this argument, then you need to show the evidence for the premises. If you make a deductive argument, you have to show the evidence for the premises. Okay? Now, the evidence that people have shown for the premises, right, is not good evidence, is what I'm saying. So they've shown Big Bang cosmology, and what we've seen is that Big Bang cosmology does not establish a universe. So
you're saying my premise that the universe began to exist.
Yeah.
You're saying that's illogical.
No, I'm not saying it's illogical. I'm saying you haven't established it to be true beyond any reasonable doubt, which is what you need in a deductive argument. Right? If you're going to make a deductive argument, now if you have a deductive argument with two premises, right? Suppose you say that premise one is 60% probability of being true, and I can't dispute that. Okay? Premise 2 has 60% probability of true, and I've got nothing to dispute that. What's the probability that the conclusion is true? Tell me, Darren.
Of what?
Of the conclusion being true. I've got two premises. One premise has a 60% probability of being true. Premise 2 has 60% probability of being true. What's the probability that the conclusion is true?
No idea, tell me.
It's just multiplying two numbers, Darren. Come on. Come on, you're not that.
Well, you want to multiply 60 by 60?
0.6 times 0.6 is what?
0.6 is 0.36.
Exactly. So you can do it, right? So in fact, so that means that even if you've got two premises where each premise is more likely to be true than not, the actual conclusion is less likely to be true than not true.
Okay.
Right? So you have to establish that the premises are true to a high level of probability.
All right.
Okay.
I've got you.
So you understand that. Right.
So me believing the universe had a beginning, you're saying cannot be proven either way.
Correct.
So bring something else then.
Okay, so to what question?
To the same.
So the question is the kalam a valid argument?
I'll give an example.
Or is there a
I'll give an example. No. I'll give you an example. I believe the universe began to exist. Okay. I've not seen evidence like you like to do it to say it didn't always.
Right.
It's always existed.
Okay.
But I believe it began to exist.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe we've always existed and the universe has always existed. Expansion and whatever it was.
Yeah.
All right. So right now we're at an impasse because neither of us can prove our case.
I think if I'm honest, I think you're in I think the position that you've taken. I think it's quite. In my view, it's quite weak. Maybe I'm naive about the science of it, but the models you're bringing are mathematical. They're models of the universe.
All models of the universe are
Sure,
mathematical.
I understand. Sure, just 1 second.
I was going to just allow him in.
Oh, you're going to allow him? Okay.
I'm allowing him.
Okay.
I'm allowing him.
Okay. All right, we'll come back to it.
So now, what other reasons have you got to support what you're saying?
Okay, so what reasons have I got to support that the kalam is a bad argument?
No, what other reasons have you got to support the idea that the universe has always existed?
I'm not claiming the universe has always existed.
But I'm believing that the universe began to exist.
Okay.
Right. Now,
so the question is that a rationally defended belief?
You can't touch that, can you?
Okay, so right, let's take the case. Suppose I say there's life on Mars. Okay. There might be life on Mars, there might not be, but scientists are investigating that. Now, if I make this claim, I believe there is life on Mars,
right.
You are rationally justified in saying that's unreasonable.
No.
Because there isn't any evidence to support it.
No, it doesn't go that far straight away. If you say, I believe there's life on Mars, I'll say, why do you believe there's life on Mars?
Okay. Fine, okay. So why...
And then you give me your reasons to support your belief, and then I will then make the judgment whether or not you are delusional or not.
Okay, that's fine.
Do you understand?
Yes.
So when someone says to me about prove there's no spaghetti monsters and all that nonsense, I simply ask them, do you believe in spaghetti monsters?
No, of course. Right.
Okay. So the belief, you have to have reasons to hold the thing. So I say it again.
Right, agreed.
So I believe the universe had a beginning.
Right.
Because I don't believe it's always been here.
Right.
And I don't have any, I'll be honest with you, I couldn't give you scientific reasons. I'm sure if I went and researched, I could find something. All right. I could look.
I'm sure you could.
Right. But you've got nothing. But you've got nothing in the alternative way to say the universe has always existed either.
Okay, I'm not claiming the universe.
No, but you have nothing, that's the point.
Right.
Whether you're claiming it or not is irrelevant. You have nothing. There is nothing. All right. So at this juncture, you're in no position to tell me the universe didn't begin to exist.
Because what you're saying to him essentially, it's just to summarise, it's that I don't know, but you can't know either.
Exactly.
Yes,
which is I think that's unreasonable, because the thing that you're bringing, and it goes back to my point I was about to make, the thing that you're bringing to say that I don't know, therefore you can't know, are two contradictory mathematical theorems, and that's a problem. Because actually there's no coherence in the argument you're bringing. You're bringing an ad hoc argument on. Actually there's a theory.
What's ad hoc?
So the idea that because we know that everything was the mass was not the mass was increasing, but the density was increasing, and therefore time would still have been acting on that scenario. But then you bring another theorem that says actually if there was no mass, then the time wouldn't act in that way. But these two things are not directly reconcilable.
What do you mean they're not reconcilable?
So was there mass at the beginning of the universe or not?
We don't know, but there's good reason to think there wasn't.
What's a good reason?
Because the Higgs field would have switched on after the Big Bang. That's how we model
that's a presumption
of the universe. Yeah, it might not be true.
Yeah, so
there are reasons.
So this is the problem. This is the thing. What I'm saying.
There are reasons to think this. It's not ad hoc. It's not someone just suppose. Oh, maybe there wasn't.
Sure. No, I'm not saying that, because obviously the science is much more developed and nuanced than that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is when it's presented as a defeater, It's presented in an ad hoc way.
I'm not presenting it as a defeater.
Great. So we're agreed then it's not a defeater.
What I'm saying is, you don't need to prove, if you have a deductive argument, right, then you don't need to prove that the assumptions of the argument are false. You only have to show that they haven't been shown to be true. Then the deductive argument is not a valid argument. No, Darren, look, if you believe in God for some other reason than the Kalam argument, then that's a separate conversation.
Agreed.
Okay?
No, but
that's
we're talking about the universe here.
Right?
Let's stay on
but
point.
if you're saying that the Kalam argument provides evidence for God, right, then you need to show that the premises are true. Okay? It's not enough to say, oh look, he doesn't know and I don't know, so I'm justified in saying the premises are true. You're not justified in saying the
that's
premises
not the point,
are true. You have to show that they're true.
Well, let's go back to what I just said to you. Right now, I know the doctor says you're in a weaker position, but I'm going to allow him the equal position. So you can't prove it, I can't prove it.
Right.
So what else you got to support what you're thinking? You haven't got a position, have you?
Okay, so it depends on what question you're asking.
Beginning of whether the universe had a beginning or not.
Okay, I don't have a position.
You don't have a position?
Right, correct.
Does it matter?
Well, it matters if you're going to use the beginning of the universe as an argument for the existence of God, or as evidence supporting the existence of God. If you're going to use that, then yes, it matters.
So if the universe did have a beginning, you then concede it needs a cause?
No.
It doesn't need a cause, even if it has a beginning.
We've been on holiday.
So how did it begin?
You come back now.
Okay, so let's take the case where it does have a beginning, because it might have.
That's what I'm saying.
So let's take that case.
Yeah.
Does it make sense to talk about a cause? Everything we know about causes is that they happen before their events.
Yeah.
But what we understand about the universe now, and we've only really understand this since Einstein, really, I think, is that time is part of the fabric of the universe.
Yeah.
Okay, space and time are not these two completely independent things. They're tied together. They're part of the fabric of the universe.
Right.
So if the universe had a beginning, there wasn't any before. You can't talk about before the beginning of the universe if it had a beginning, right? And therefore, what we understand about causes can't really make any sense anymore. Because if I asked you, to write an essay, what were the causes of World War II? You would say Germany invaded Poland, you might say the Treaty of Versailles upset the Germans, it turned them into fascists. You're going to be talking about things that happened before, right? Whenever I talk, are you familiar with something called the Hill criteria?
No.
So you understand that...
No.
I know, I'm going to try and explain it to you.
Oh, I thought you were explaining like I knew it.
So the Hill criteria, so in the statistics, you can show that there are very strong correlations between things that obviously have no relationship. A good example is there's like a 0.97 correlation between the number of lemons that have been imported into the United States from Mexico and how many road fatalities there are.
Sure.
Now, no one thinks that these two things are causal. Yeah. So you have to say, well, okay, they're highly correlated. How do we establish that A cause B? And there's something called the Hill criteria, which is what most people in medical statistics and in social sciences, and they use these criteria to try and establish that A caused B. Yeah. And one of the criteria is A had to happen before B. Yeah. If it's going to be a cause of B, it had to be before. So the problem is, if the universe had a beginning, there is no before. So and therefore you can't, you don't have a right to demand there must still be a cause.
So this is where the language,
exactly
fails in actually the analysis.
Okay, go ahead.
And this is the problem. So the way of phrasing it is without using time references. So was there so when we say that the universe had a beginning, that it assumes that there was a circumstance in which there wasn't a universe. No time in that statement. So I accept that there was a circumstance in which there was no universe. And then the universe came and time and everything else started.
The problem is and then implies there's time.
Sure,
but the whole point is if the universe had a beginning, there can't be any time.
Sure. So there was a circumstance in which there was no universe. The universe started. Because we're here. So the problem now is to say that you can't say before, because that's the intuitive question. Okay, well, what happened before?
Right.
But actually we're saying, no, technically you can't use it, but it's not being used in a technical sense, it's being used in just a descriptive sense, a layman's sense. So maybe to say that there was a circumstance in which there wasn't a universe, and now then there is a universe. Now that implies a beginning. Also implies that the cause of that beginning had to be outside of that universe to start with, because if the cause had to exist before the effect, We're using the word term before.
Exactly, but you can't. That's the whole point. You are not entitled to use the term.
But this is the problem.
If there isn't any time.
So this is where the language doesn't allow the analysis, but the analysis is not full.
Okay, it's not just the language. It's the fundamental concepts, the rationality of the concepts. If there's no time before the universe, you can't talk about a before.
So according to your principle, then you said the universe could never have had a beginning.
I'm not saying it couldn't have had a beginning.
You are saying that.
How am I saying that?
So how did it begin?
I don't claim it did begin.
He's saying
it did begin.
No.
Okay, I know that title was.
I think Imran's understanding what I'm saying.
You just conceded if the universe had a beginning.
If it had a beginning, what I'm saying is, then you cannot demand that it must have had a cause.
Why not?
Because everything we know about causes
How did it begin without a cause?
Well, okay, I don't know. I'm not claiming to know the ultimate origin of all things. Right. It's the theist that's claiming to know the origin of all things. Right? I'm not making claims.
What if time doesn't apply to the cause of the universe?
Sorry?
What if time doesn't apply to the cause of the universe?
Well, if time doesn't apply
to the cause of the universe,
right? Then you cannot make a claim that there must be a cause.
Why not?
Because, as I said, if what we understand about causes is they are temporal. A cause happens before its effect. So if the universe had a beginning, right, you cannot demand there must still be a cause because there isn't a before the.
Let's reverse the question. Maybe to understand, let's reverse the question. If there was let's just reverse the question.
Okay.
I assume that there was a circumstance in which there wasn't a universe. We have a universe. Okay. So for me, there has to be a start process. Is it not recording? And I say the universe is an effect, and therefore there has to be a cause. And now that cause is outside of time because automatically we don't have
the universe.
It's not in the universe. It's not, and that cause has to have just a conceptual analysis. Has to have at least as much power as the mass within the universe.
Why?
Energy.
Why?
Because if you're gonna, if you've got,
why does it have to be powerful?
I explain it. If you're going to have an effect, can you have, as we understand it, can you have an effect that's greater than the work you put into it?
Well, it depends how you're defining work.
So say if I have an elastic band. Okay. And my muscles are only so strong, I can only stretch it to a certain limit. I can't put any more energy into that band than I have.
Agree.
So whatever the mass and the energy within the universe is, which is, I know it's not constant, but it's been pretty much the same since the beginning, because it's just been interchanged between mass and energy.
Well, here's the thing: the total mass energy of the universe may be zero.
Okay.
Right?
On average.
Yeah. Okay. So it may be zero. We don't know because the gravitational energy is negative, the mass energy is positive. It's perfectly conceivable that the two balance out and are zero. Okay. In fact, there's a theorem in physics where you can show that if it's not zero, the universe must be eternal in the past. That's called the quantum eternity theorem. Okay. Now, of course, you can always say, well, maybe it wasn't zero. That's fine. You can always violate a theorem by violating the assumptions, right? So, but if it was zero, then could it be that a finite being could create it? In fact, physicists have actually looked at this issue. Could you actually make a universe in a laboratory?
Could you?
And they think maybe you could. I mean, no one knows. But there's no a priori reason to think that you couldn't.
So you're saying there is a power within this universe to create this universe?
You keep misunderstanding maybe for is, right? It could be that our universe was created by some scientists in another universe. Certainly, it's conceivable.
I think this takes us to the crux of our the beginning, the title that we had.
Yeah.
Because really, what you're saying to me, and you're saying it again, is that you don't know. When there's lots of different theories that are competing. Yeah. That could be even contradictory.
And it really is. We don't mind you saying.
Yeah. So, what I'm saying is, there's no.
Don't say we're wrong.
No, I'm not saying. Okay, you are wrong if you are making an argument, and Imran has said he thinks the Kalam argument is a reasonable argument.
I do think so.
Right? Maybe you don't, Darren. But Hamza does. Shabir Ali does. Hamza's made this argument. Of course he has. Right? Shabir has. So maybe you don't. But Imran does. You do. Okay. Well, there we go. So now.
So that's why I asked you. Which part of that are you saying is illogical?
All right. So it's illogical to affirm a conclusion based on a deductive argument if you don't know that the premises of the argument are valid, if they're true. That is the unreasonable part.
What if I believe the Quran is from the cause of the universe?
If you believe God for another reason, we have to debate that other reason.
No, that's what I said to you.
Okay,
so that's
fine.
why.
But if you're saying this reason is one of your reasons, then
what did
we
I say?
can disagree.
I said we take you to. I allowed you to get to an even keel, and I said what else you got?
Yeah.
But then the stupidity of me asking that question, you ain't got a position you have to support. All right. So it's me supporting my position, isn't it?
So let me respond. I don't need to show that the premises are false. If you make a deductive
No, we're not
argument,
saying that you do.
No, but he is. He's saying, look, you don't think about the logic of his argument. Right? What you're saying is, you can't deny the argument because you don't know that it's false.
No,
right?
I didn't say that. I didn't say
that. I'll
tell you what I said.
Implied.
I'll be explicit.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm saying to you can't say what I believe is false when you don't know yourself. That's what I said.
Okay, I don't need to say that it's false. All I need to show is that it's unreasonable to believe the conclusion if the premises haven't been established.
And why is it unreasonable for me to believe in the universe having a beginning?
Because there's no evidence for it.
But why is it unreasonable to believe that? Is it believing without evidence?
I don't agree. You can believe something on the basis of evidence.
And you believe it on the basis of no evidence.
But then it's an unreasonable belief. If you believe it on no evidence, then by definition, it's an unreasonable belief.
But you can have reason.
Yeah, if you have reason, fine. Then you have to give me the reason.
All right, and the Quran says the universe had a beginning.
Okay.
So that's my extra now.
Okay, well that's a separate argument then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what have you got to counter that?
Okay, fine. The Quran gets stuff in cosmology wrong.
What claim about cosmology does the Quran make?
It says there are 7 heavens. One above the other.
What does the Quran mean by that?
Well, it says, okay. Let's try and see if we can.
This is a change here.
Should we allow the change?
Let's see. If you want to change the topic, fine. Okay. But this is.
I don't think we've come to a conclusion on the other. I'll be honest with you. Yeah.
So, all right.
Before we move on to a different
you can carry on.
I'd rather you conclude.
Okay, I would rather.
Because I want to watch this video and I want to learn from it.
I'd rather not go to a different topic. We can do if you wish, but I'd rather stick on one topic at a time.
I don't mind challenging the Quran.
Okay, fine. Let's stay on this topic then, on the kalam argument, right? So I can say, look, if you believe it and there's no evidence to support the premises, that's an unreasonable belief. That is what I'm saying, right? I'm not saying your belief is wrong, but it can be unreasonable even if we don't know if it's right or wrong. Right? If I say I believe there's life on Mars because I had a dream there was life on Mars, that's unreasonable.
Agreed.
Right? It's not necessarily false though, is it? There could be life on Mars.
No, that's why you believe it.
Right? Exactly. So if I believe it for bad reasons, it's an unreasonable belief. Yes? Right. So for the kalam argument, right, if you believe that the kalam argument is valid because science has shown there's a beginning, or because you think there's a logical inconsistency with thinking that things can be infinite, then these are bad arguments.
No, what I would do, I would look at the claims of whoever makes the claim the universe is infinite, but you don't make that claim. That's what I don't get. You're not making the claim the universe is infinite, are you?
No, I'm not. Right. Just as I wouldn't be making the claim that there isn't life on Mars. But you would still be unreasonable if you believed there was life on Mars because you dreamt it. Right? I would have no evidence that there isn't life on Mars. Right? But I can still say you are unreasonable for believing what you believe.
The universe had a beginning.
Right? Let's just take the example of life on Mars. Let's presume you believed in there was life on Mars because you had a dream there was life on Mars. Right? That would be an unreasonable belief, and I would be epistemically entitled to say it's an unreasonable belief, even if I have no evidence that there isn't life on Mars.
Right, I get that.
I don't need evidence that there's no life on Mars. Right, and I have no evidence that there's no life on Mars. Right, I don't need it. I can say your belief is unreasonable because the evidence that you've put forward is shoddy evidence. Right. That's in part. Do you understand the criticism? Right.
So if I make a claim, you challenge the claim of what I believe. All right.
Yeah.
So you're asking me why I believe the universe had a beginning.
Well, in this case, we're talking about the kalam argument, right? Is it a valid argument? If I'm not asking you personally whether you believe because of the kalam argument. I don't really care what your personal beliefs are. No. We're debating intellectual arguments that people have advanced.
No, I appreciate
whether they're valid arguments or not.
I'm just trying to understand. Okay. So, because I don't get this idea about if the universe had a beginning, it can't have a cause because time and this, that, the other. When time only applies to the universe.
Okay.
And if the universe didn't exist, if there is a cause of the universe, which there must be if it had a beginning.
No, but that's the point. You can't say there must be, because...
So you're saying the universe could begin without a cause? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying you can't talk about causes.
No, you said...
any confidence...
We used the example.
There's no time.
We used the example, didn't we? We accepted if the universe had a beginning.
Yeah.
You're saying it could begin without a cause.
Sure, okay, sure.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Based on what?
Based on our understanding of causality. Our understanding of causality is that causes happen before their effects. But if the universe had a beginning, then there's no before. Therefore, the condition...
Unless there's a different time. Unless there's no time.
Therefore, the condition of causality is not present. Okay?
So at what point...
So let's put it this way.
I don't understand this principle.
This is where it falls down a little bit.
This is where you know it's
because you haven't thought about the nature of time and causality.
No, the time applies to the universe, doesn't it?
Yes.
I don't believe...
Right.
So I don't believe anything in the universe is anything to do with the cause.
No, I know you don't. That's not the point.
Right. No, it is the point. Because you keep applying the principle of this universe as a condition on the cause of it.
Absolutely.
I don't get that.
Okay. Let me try and explain it. Let me try and respond. It's perfectly... I don't say there couldn't be some cause that we don't understand. Some cause that's not part of time, which I think is what you're asserting. Right?
No. You're saying... You're definitive in this. You're saying there can be no cause without time.
No. I'm not saying that. No, I think you misunderstood my point.
What did you say?
I'm saying you are not entitled to demand there must be a cause.
Why not?
Okay?
Why not?
Because everything we understand about causes is they happen before their effects.
All right. Do you know of any effect that happens without a cause?
Possibly.
Give me one.
Radioactive decay. Which particle decays?
What causes the particle to decay?
Okay, no, it's not that okay, let me try and explain. We understand how particles decay and what causes them to decay. They're unstable, but what many physicists advance is that if you take the half-life of a particle, okay, there is only a probability that it will decay, and which of the atoms decay doesn't have a cause.
Can it decay without a cause? What's the cause of a radioactive decay?
Okay,
what needs to happen to the particle?
Okay, the substance has to have an unstable mass. Okay.
Right. So the cause of...
You're missing the point. The issue is which particles decay, not whether it decays.
No. Why they decay?
No, but that's not the question.
Well, of course we are. Why does it have the effect?
No. What? You're totally misunderstanding the point.
Can a particle decay if it's not unstable?
Not to my knowledge.
Right. So for a particle to decay, it requires to be unstable.
Yes.
So the cause of a particle is its unstable
but you're
nature.
missing the point, Darren. You're missing the point.
Missing this point.
Okay. So let me try and explain it. It's not whether the particle whether the substance decays. It's which particles decay that is considered not to have a cause by actually the majority of physicists.
If you're talking about particle decay, we're talking about a particle that's decaying. We're not talking about the particles on
No. When you have a substance, let's take, you've got a pile of carbon-14, okay? It's going to decay to, is it carbon-12, I think, right? From my memory, okay? So the issue is not, do we understand why does it decay from carbon-14 to carbon-12? It has a half-life, you understand that, right? And the half-life is, I don't know, what is it, 5,700 years or something, right? Something like that, okay? The issue is not whether it decays or not. The issue is which half decays.
Okay.
What is causing one half to decay?
What is what?
Causing one half and not the other.
Okay.
And as far as physicists understand it, and many physicists advance this, there is no cause for one Y.
Or they don't know what the cause is.
Well, that's one interpretation.
Funny thing, you should have said don't know at that point.
Okay.
Ironically.
Well, okay, the point is, you've asked, is there something that may not have a cause?
Well, no,
okay?
but that's not.
And that's an example of something that might not have a cause.
I don't believe
but that's not, it's irrelevant to this argument.
You just use, you just use a particle decaying as not having a cause, and we've already established for it to decay, it requires to be unstable, therefore that's its cause.
We just can't predict
it. Again, you've misunderstood.
And then obviously,
there are two questions.
And then the second question is this: what causes the particle to become unstable? That's what you can't answer.
No, that's not it. No, you've not understood the problem. There are two questions, okay?
Go on.
One, concerning whether the particle decays or not, what are the conditions for the substance to decay, okay? But there's a second question. So that is not what we're saying is a cause, or what some people claim.
All right, let me repeat my question.
Let me clarify, right? There are two things that you're confusing, right? One is whether something will decay. But the second question is, which half decays? And it's the second question whereby it is thought there may be a breakdown in causality.
Well, that wasn't what I asked you.
Okay, I know, because you've confused the issues.
No, I don't think I have.
Why is it a breakdown of causality?
All right, but well, tell me, what is the cause?
So
what is the cause for why one half decays and what the other? They're identical.
Because it's unstable.
No, but that doesn't answer it at all, Darren.
Why does it decay? Because it's unstable.
No, it's not why it decays.
So if we cannot...
It's why one half...
Why this particular part...
And why the other half doesn't, when they're both identical.
Right.
What is the cause, Darren? You tell me.
I don't know the cause. Why would I know the cause?
Okay, well, you're asserting everything has a cause.
You don't believe it has a cause?
Well, many physicists don't believe that. I'm not saying...
No, they don't know it. Well, does that mean
No, they assert that it doesn't because the two are identical.
So for no reason?
Yes.
So for no reason it becomes unstable?
Yes.
So this is where... To make this a claim about this is now an uncaused effect is simply this. I would say science of the gaps. I really would say that because there's some process that's occurring.
Okay.
Because actually there is nothing that, as far as I'm concerned, some effect that would have a cause. It's just that we don't know how this particular half becomes the unstable.
Just because we don't
part
know
of
it,
that
that means it's not
carbon 14.
Okay.
So. I'd say good attempt at trying to produce a non-caused effect, but that's not going to work. It's just that we don't know why that particular half becomes unstable.
You know, you can even say we don't know what's causing it.
But hang on. You have asserted that everything has a cause. So you have to back that up.
Yeah,
so I'm asking you what is the cause and you can't tell me.
No,
so you are in the don't know of the gaps.
No, but you're already asking me what the cause is.
We're taking your position.
So what is the cause?
I don't know what the cause is.
So how can you assert everything has a cause?
But just because I don't know what the cause is doesn't mean it's not cause.
Right, but you can't prove that it has a cause. How are you establishing that everything has a cause?
So let me.
What?
Okay, I'll tell you why. All right. So and this goes back to the principle.
Just step back a bit.
We go back to the basic principles.
Yeah.
So from a small population of observations, we then generalise to the larger, population. So everything that we observe within the universe, every effect has a cause. So you've given an example of something that looks like an effect that we don't understand if there's a cause or not. I would say, looking at, and this is a scientific approach, looking at our observations of within the universe, there is a cause for that, we just don't know what it is yet.
But that's an assertion without evidence.
No, it's not. The evidence is...
What is the evidence?
The evidence is all of the observations of effects within the universe, for every observation, having a cause.
But that's a circular argument, because you're basically saying, I observe all these things that have causes, and I've got these things that are, let's say, candidates for non-cause, and I'm going to assume that they have causes because the other things I've observed have causes.
So let me...
But then, basically, you're basically saying, I'm not going to let any contender for a causality into my equation, right? Because I'm just going to exclude that on principle.
I'll make it a bit more concrete. I'll make it a bit more concrete. We've always observed the sun rise in the morning throughout time.
Yeah.
I assume that this is going to rise tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
May not.
Right.
But actually, this is taking finite observations and generalizing from that.
Yeah.
In our universe, everything that we've observed as an effect has a cause. You've described an effect and say we don't understand the cause, and I'm saying that that's a problem of a lack of knowledge.
Well, that's what you claim. Other people claim it's not a question of lack of knowledge, and it's fundamentally random. There's not a reason why one half decays at this point and the other half doesn't. Okay, that's what many physicists assert. I'm not saying they're right. But that's what they assert.
So it's a random process,
right? Yes. Okay,
so
fundamentally random. We're not talking. There's different definitions of random. Okay, what we're talking about. One definition of random is simply you can't predict it. Okay, that's not what we're talking about.
What are you saying?
This is fundamental randomness.
Right.
Okay,
a random process.
Yes. Okay.
And what does this process do?
In fact, a survey of physicists was done recently about whether this is fundamentally random, and about 2/3 of them said yes, fundamentally random. There are, others that say. So the process. What Imran is saying that no, there's some hidden cause, and that's certainly conceivable, right? But we don't know it to be true. So therefore, you are not in a position to assert.
We don't know it to be not true either.
If you're asserting that this is the truth, then you have to establish that this is the truth.
So
and you haven't established.
No, I'm not saying.
But having said
something causes the decay.
That's your assertion.
No, does it?
Okay.
They don't know.
Sorry, this gentleman has
it's like the Planck scale. It's yet unknown and yet to be unraveled.
Correct.
What's driving that decay?
Thank you.
Well, of course, there is always a possibility that there is some unknown cause, right? And
See, what these guys are saying is that at t equals 0, all physics breaks down. Math
well, no, that's incorrect.
That's what's what, no, but that's what you guys are saying.
Non-quantum physics breaks down.
Okay.
Physics breaks
But
down.
one second.
When maths breaks down, and therefore the cause of the universe is not physical, because of
Okay.
breaks down.
But that I think is incorrect. So there you go. You've just heard it. He's saying at t equals 0, the laws of physics break down, and that is based on singularity theorems, which we know are not valid. Right? They have energy condition assumptions that have been disproved by observations. Okay, and it's based on the idea that relativity and quantum mechanics, right, are consistent when they know they're not
The
consistent.
universe has a beginning, right?
Well, if it has a beginning with a singularity, it has a beginning because you could have a beginning without a singularity, right? You could imagine that's true.
So
Right?
Sorry, thank you, brother.
Okay.
So just one quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said that there could be a universe without singularity just now.
You could imagine it's true. I don't know of how you would really firm that up.
So who would imagine?
But actually, I do know of a model with a beginning without a singularity. That is the Vilenkin tunneling from nothing model. And in that model, I don't believe there's a singularity, from my recollection of it. But here, what you have is a scenario where you kind of have the laws of physics have to exist ontologically without the universe, and then they tunnel the space and time. Who knows?
How
It's
can
a
that?
speculative model. Maybe. Who knows? I mean, you can't tell me it's impossible, can you?
Are all these models speculative?
Anything about what happened at the Big Bang at the moment is not confirmed by observations. Okay, so in that sense, it's
this is the thing, you see.
right?
So really what you're saying is that there's uncertainty from the scientific perspective, and therefore if you're going to make an argument for using the Kalam cosmological argument, you have to have a non-scientific way of showing you can't have an infinite series of past events.
Well, one thing at a time. People advance the Kalam argument. They use philosophical arguments and scientific arguments. So let's just deal one at a time, right? The scientific argument, I think I've given a good reason why it's invalid. Do you have a response to why you think on science that it's valid?
What's that?
The Kalam.
So I don't think that presenting an argument that says that without mass there's therefore no time, and then you can't talk about
I think that's
a circumstance in which the universe doesn't exist, and then universe existing because it's talking about causality, that we have to automatically disregard this. I think you're presenting contradictory theories.
You're conflating two different arguments. Okay, the issue about mass and time was related to the philosophical argument. Okay. But in this case, we're talking about the scientific argument. Okay, does science confirm through observations of Big Bang cosmology that the universe had a beginning? And I'm saying no, it doesn't.
It only goes to the Big Bang itself.
It doesn't, right? So do you agree with that statement that the science does not confirm that the universe had a beginning? We can talk about philosophical arguments. That's fine, but one argument at a time, right? So do you?
The universe is 13.8 billion years old.
Well, when people why don't just say the universe is 13.8 billion years old? What they mean is that is the expansion history of the universe. That's how far we can trace it back with our observations. So yes, we can go with our observations. We can go back 13.8 billion years. At 13.8 billion years, we are unable to say what happened. Now there are theorems, as I said earlier, proven by Penrose and Hawking, which shows that event actually is the beginning of the universe. However, what's happened since those theorems were developed in the 60s and 70s is that we now have reason to think, and some of it observational reasons, some of it theoretical reasons, to think that those theorems no longer apply. Okay, and in fact, Penrose and Hawking, I've interviewed both of them, and both of them say the Penrose-Hawking theorems do not apply to the universe. Okay, one reason is there's something technical. It's called the energy condition. We know from observations that it's violated, but more importantly, what physicists think now is that there's a conflict between relativity, which is our theory of large-scale structure of the universe, and quantum mechanics. And those singularity theorems only use relativity. They don't have any quantum mechanics involved in it, right? So what cosmologists have done, and actually here is a reason to think the universe may be eternal into the past, I don't think it's a very strong reason, but it is some reason. What cosmologists have done, or what physicists have done, is they've developed a number of approaches to try and unify quantum mechanics and general relativity. String theory is one example, but there are others. And this is very important. String theory is not the only approach. There's something called loop quantum gravity, another one called Java lift shifts gravity, and another one called causal dynamical triangulations, or is it causal set theory? I can't remember. But certainly the big three would be string theory, loop quantum gravity, and Java lift shifts gravity. Okay, those are the three most cited. Okay, now people have developed models of the Big Bang using these theories, and what is very interesting is that all of them have the same conclusion: the Big Bang is not the beginning, and singularities are not allowed, and the universe then always exists. Okay. Now, now, of course, we don't know that these theories are right. They haven't been tested. We don't know. But the fact that they all come to the same conclusion is at least
Phil, can I
suggestive.
Just one quick thing.
Okay,
But the thing that I'm getting from this is that because quantum theory and general relativity contradict, they need to be overhauled. We need an overarching theory that would actually correctly explain things better.
I agree.
So we came to the same situation. There is uncertainty that you can't get past. Okay?
Yes.
So we have to put the scientific method of arriving at conclusions about that, at least currently, to the side for a moment.
Okay, so can we agree then, yes or no, that science does not establish the truth of premise 2 in the Kalam that the universe had a beginning?
I think what we can agree on is...
Can we agree on
it's not a yes or no answer. I think what we can agree on is that science doesn't establish anything.
No. This is not like that. That's a bad response. Because I can take the view that everything in science is open to doubt, all right? But this isn't like that at all, right? Because you can have like 20 independent lines of evidence that all go to the same conclusion. You can always have some doubt about it. Maybe we're brains in a vat. You can always have some doubt about something, right? But this doubt is not like that, right? This doubt is based on the fact that these theorems, right, have a fundamental contradiction in them. Okay?
Can I ask you a question?
And therefore, we have a much stronger reason to doubt them than the sort of vague doubts you would have about anything in science, because anything is always... It's not like that at all.
Sure. I'm not talking about the vague doubts. I'm talking about the specific. We're talking about the beginning of the universe. Bringing contradictory theories and ad hoc theories about getting rid of time, etc., don't help to establish that there is strong evidence against any conclusion about there being an infinite, not being able to traverse an infinite past. I don't think that's been established. I think it's good, because what you're saying to any theist generally, but Muslims specifically, because you're talking to us, is really know your stuff, try and learn and find out a bit more, which is a great message.
And if you believe in an argument that has certain scientific evidence, what that should do is, you rather than when you say believe something, believe in God, don't believe in God, you always often answer yes or no. But rather, I think it's more appropriate to say, I have certain levels of belief. As the evidence gets stronger, my levels of belief go up.
Can I ask you one question?
And now people, yes, but one second, right? Now people have used this argument and said, this has helped me believe in God, right? Or they think it's some convincing argument for God. And what's happened is the science has changed, and now what should happen is your belief in God should go down a bit. How much we can debate, right? But it should go down a bit.
Can I ask you a question?
Okay.
Does anything you've said today refute my belief in a creator?
It depends why you established your belief. If you establish your belief...
anything you said today...
No, I'm not, at this point, I'm not trying to prove there's no creator. All I'm trying to say is that if you are using...
I'm happy.
Okay, good.